And Danny West joining us from HawgSports.com, part of the 24/7 Sports Network. Busy man this time of the year. It's deer season too, and Danny, I mean, you're an outdoorsman, so I mean, how do you feed the need to be out in the woods while also at the same time it's recruiting season? Can these things mix together for somebody that is so good at both of these things as you are?
Well, I wouldn't. First of all, I'm not very good at deer hunting, but I do enjoy it. I'll tell you this, though, it does seem to dwindle away as we get closer to signing period. My time is pretty strapped right now, so yeah, I would say the early October, even late October, but you start getting into late November, buddy, it's hard to find a day to get away.
Well, I know you're a better hunter than me because I've never done it before. So
you need to go with me sometime, Phil.
We can plan something out at some point. Maybe we'll figure it out. Did I see one of the crazy pieces of this Lincoln Riley to USC story? Did I see one of his assistants at OU was doing maybe a little dual recruiting, according to one of the recruits at USC? And he said something about he had visited with a recruit there. Riley said he's doing some work for us, and at the same time I saw where a guy that OU had been targeting, he'd visited him the same day. Was there a little dual recruiting going on there?
Yeah, that's what I read as well. Obviously, I don't know for fact what exactly happened, but we've seen that before. Obviously, it blows up when you're talking about two schools like USC and Oklahoma. But I've heard of stuff like that before. It's it's a shame that goes on, but that's part of it. Guys take new jobs and they want to keep that foot in the door, and sometimes it blows up in their face, and maybe that's what happened here. He just got caught.
Transfer portal's nuts these days. What did I say? There's an account that I follow where over the course of an hour yesterday or the day before, over the course of an hour, like 17 different tweets about players.
NCAA portal run by 24/7?
Yeah.
It's Rivals, isn't it?
It's nuts. So,
we'll go with 24/7.
We'll go with 24/7.
Okay, yeah.
Exactly.
That's what I thought it was.
So, it's a prevailing thought. Arkansas is going to be probably adding somebody out of the transfer portal, and so what are the next couple of weeks like? Because you got early signing day coming up, all these guys in the portal. It's kind of nuts at the same time while you're trying to figure out what bowl game you're going to.
Yeah, it is. There's a lot of moving parts there, but obviously for Arkansas, they do have some very specific needs, in my opinion. I mean, if you lose a John Ridgway, which I think most people think he's going to move on. He's obviously going to take part in the Senior Bowl, or was at least invited to do so. So you've got defensive line needs. Grant Morgan, Hayden Henry, they're going to leave quite a hole at linebacker. We'll see if Bumper wants to come back. If he were to leave too, now you're talking about a really big hole. But, those two spots in particular, and there's other spots too now. I mean, if you could find a lockdown corner out there, I think you have to like your chances of trying to attract one of those. And then wide receiver, believe it or not, it's not all about Traylon Burks. Obviously, those are pretty big shoes to fill alone. But then you think about Davion Warren and Tyson Morris getting out of here as well. So quite a few spots that I think they could potentially, use a guy immediately. So that's when you talk about the timeline there, obviously you want to go ahead and get this 2022 class wrapped up in about 13 days now. So the good news in that regard, Phil, is all of those guys are super solid. We're not sitting here talking about, are they going to hang on to this one? No drama, nobody on Twitter saying, well, I might take this late visit that I'm aware of anyway. So that's the good thing about it. I think they've got some good kids that have been solid with them, even before they went on this, 8-4 campaign that they had this year. Those guys were ready to sign immediately as soon as they committed. So hats off to them. I think that takes a lot of stress off of the coaches. But sure, to answer your question, I think we're on the verge of seeing Arkansas start to tap into that portal.
And not just that these guys are ready to sign, but they're ready to get to school. Like if I read your column in 17 January enrollees, I mean, that's got to be the most they've ever had.
It's the most I can recall. I know that much by far. I think last year they had 11, and I remember saying the same thing. I think that's the biggest number. Well, now you add 6 more to that. It could be more, if they close out with a guy or two here and there that is also an early enrollee. Man, 17 already, that's quite a bit. There's a lot of benefit from that. And, when you have that much turnover, attrition, I guess, with a huge senior class and a lot of those guys opting not to come back for a COVID sixth year, super senior year, whatever you want to call it, then, you've got scholarships available. Why not bring them in, get them acclimated as far as school, let them go through spring ball. There's probably quite a few guys there that could potentially help as a true freshman. So I think it's going to be a positive for them.
Danny, as far as, with the transfer portal being as big and as instrumental in building programs and how much of a role it plays in college athletics today, when it comes to recruiting, have you noticed, or do you know if any different type of methods used and difference between recruiting a transfer versus a high school, or is there any difference between the recruitment processes?
Yeah, probably so, in terms of, just addressing a specific need, like we talked about with D-line and linebacker. Kids are smart, college kids are smart too. They can look around and tell, okay, Buster Brown's getting out of there. They're going to have a hole to fill, and I think I could go fill it. So I think there is some of that, whereas maybe with a high school kid, the lingo might be a little bit different. Hey, in 2 years, this guy's going to be out of here. I do think there's more of an immediate approach, urgency type deal with a transfer that you don't have to promise all these things and hope the kid believes you. He can see it for himself. Like, you've got a spot to fill, and I think that obviously plays to your advantage. But having said that, everybody's got that, right? Mm-hmm. Everybody wants to sell that and try to make the college kid believe that. But with a guy like Sam Pittman, I think he's a pretty believable guy.
Yeah, and with the transfer portal starting to really ramp up, and some people's names being rumored about to go in, or some people actually putting their name in, you still have the guys that put on their social media. I know I saw a few people from Auburn, and I think I want to say a guy from Florida put on their social media saying, I signed with the school, not the coach. I think when most people think about recruiting, about these high school guys making their decision, it's about the coaching staff. It's about that relationship they build. Is it closer to a 50-50 of signing with the school rather than the coach, or do you think it's actually close to where we all believe of being, north of 80% you sign with the coach?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's a case-by-case deal. I would argue that for an in-state kid, take a kid from, Greenland, Arkansas, J.J. Hollingsworth, that guy's probably going to Arkansas no matter who the coach is, right? D-line coach, head coach. If the Razorbacks offer an in-state kid, I would say, there's a really, really good shot that he's going there regardless of record, head coach, assistant coach, any of that. But there are cases where, obviously out-of-state kids, things can be a little bit different. I've seen it time and time again where, if not for a specific coach, Justin Stepp was a great example of this, the former wide receivers coach here. He brought in all these four-star guys simply because he's a really good recruiter, and he outworked a lot of other coaches going for the same kids. And so to answer your question, Drew, I think probably most of it is what you're thinking. It probably is for the coach, but sure, for an in-state guy, or even a guy like Bumper Pool, maybe not an in-state guy, but certainly Hog legacy, grew up cheering for a specific team. Yeah, I think there's some of those cases as well.
Speaking of, the upcoming class, 2022 incoming class, I saw where a couple of pledges got boosted in the rankings. Offensive line pledge, Patrick Kutas, if I'm saying his name correctly, and Monty Powell, linebacker out of Fayetteville, both have gotten a little boost, which helps the class rankings out.
It does, yeah. I went all summer thinking, okay, trying to crunch the numbers and do the math. How are they going to avoid a slide? Because they are short on scholarship numbers this year. They're not going to sign a full class of 25. Granted, a lot of other teams won't either because they're replacing so many super seniors that came back this year. So, when I looked at it, I said, man, they're probably going to slide because they're already just about as full as they're going to get, as good as they're going to get, unless a couple of guys later in the year go on to have a really good senior year and work their way up the rankings, the player rankings, then that gives them a shot to stay, somewhere in the top 25 for sure. But right now you're at 18 in the country. That's in 2004, that's the highest they were ever rated under Coach Nutt in the 24/7 Sports online rankings era. 18th is the highest Arkansas has ever finished, and right now they're at 18th, so a chance to tie that mark. And certainly you bring up a good point there. I think it does help them to avoid that slide because, you look behind you, and you got Ole Miss and Auburn and Florida, teams that traditionally are going to move past, maybe not Ole Miss, but Auburn, Florida, Oklahoma State. A lot of those teams are they've only got 13, 15 guys on board right now. They're going to start to emerge and maybe even pass you. So any little bit of a bump helps Arkansas hold on right now. So congrats to Patrick and Manny. I thought Manny really deserved a bump and was fortunate to get that, especially having a serious injury. He tore his ACL this year, so I was a little bit concerned if he would still get that bump, and sure enough, he did.
Last thing, I know, and I'll ask about the guys visiting maybe early next week because I know Samuel Mbake and a few other guys are going to be visiting, so maybe we'll ask next week how that went. But I saw Solomon Wright is in the transfer portal, and this is a defensive lineman that never got on the field for Arkansas this last year. He's one of the first guys that I remember hearing going into the transfer portal right now. Was this somebody that you thought might have a chance to stick and show something in the coming years at Arkansas?
No disrespect to Solomon, but I always questioned it based on his size. He's not a very big guy for that particular position in the SEC. So I always did kind of question how long he might be able to stick around, and it was either going to be really, really quick that he was going to start to play, or it was never going to happen for him. And typically that's the case with an undersized guy like that. He's either super quick and super strong, or he's just smaller and probably not going to fit in very well. So best of luck to him. I thought he was I barely got to know him in the recruiting process. His offer kind of came out of nowhere when he flipped from Texas Tech at the time. So don't really know the young man all that well, but want to wish him the best.
Okay. Well, appreciate you very much, Danny. Thanks for coming on today on Thursday, and hopefully we can figure something out for next week, too. Have a great weekend.
Yeah, man. I appreciate you. Thanks.
Appreciate it, Danny.
You got it. Danny West, 24/7 Sports, HawgSports.com, the website.
It's Thanksgiving, and we all know what that means. Football. And nothing goes better with football than turkey and betting. BetOnline has you covered for all the holiday season. More props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline remains your number one spot for all sports action this Thanksgiving. Head to our new updated desktop or mobile website to sign up today and receive your 50% welcome bonus with the promo code BELIEVE to receive your bonus. That's BLEAV to receive your bonus. And it's not just football. BetOnline has pro and college hoops, NHL, boxing, UFC, even your favorite Vegas casino games. Don't wait to take advantage of all these amazing offers available for the 2021 season. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your favorite sports.